Hi, welcome to this video. Today I'm gonna share with you my goals for 2023, or actually not my goal, but my language learning goals. And first of all, I will show you what I achieved this year. I didn't put any goals for this year, or I actually did, but I kind of changed my plans throughout the year. And I'll just say what happened since we got into 2022 and where I am now. Let's just begin with what I achieved. So there are 4 languages that I'm gonna talk about, anything I anything I achieved in. And first of all, I'm gonna talk about Spanish. My Spanish is the one language I improved the most, like definitely. When this year started, I could like basics. I'd say I still was on like A1, maybe close to A2 level. And like I could kind of have a short conversation with like basic stuff and that, and I knew some random word, I can't talk, and I knew some random words. But now I'm able to have like longer conversations, and what I did was simply just I watched a lot of more series in Spanish and like tried to notice how they use the words. So it was not like only vocabulary I learned, but like how does the Spanish language work. And I looked up some grammar, there's some random free PDFs on Spanish grammar you can download, and I looked a bit on that and saw YouTube videos, and I just like really engaged myself in the language. And I've heard a lot of a podcast in Spanish. It's called Hoy Hablamos. I also heard that last year, but I heard it more this year, and that's just like when I get ready in the morning, I just like to listen to like a couple of episodes of that. One episode is like 10 minutes if I don't remember completely wrong. And then I've also texted with Spanish people. Like I've just found random Spanish people. Now I will try to speak some Spanish, I guess. When I just talk to myself, I often do that. Then I just walk around and talk to myself in Spanish. But as soon as I have to talk with like natives, then I completely freeze, and I don't think that's unnormal. So, but now I'll try to speak a bit in Spanish. Voy a hablar un poco en español. Hoy está viernes y finalmente fin de semana. Voy a hacer prácticamente nada, cerca de nada. Mi español ahora está muy mejor que mi español antes y puedo tener una conversación como con nativos y gentes, pero todavía estoy un poco nerviosa, actualmente muy nerviosa, cuando yo hablo con un nativo. Mi sueño es vivir en España y creo que está en realidad. No ahora, obviamente, pero algún día. Todavía no estoy fluido, no ya. Este es mi español ahora. So that was my Spanish. That is like where my level is right now-ish. About sometimes I'm a bit better, sometimes I'm worse. Okay, and then for German, I just learned some German because I have it in school as a subject, and I'm maybe going to exam next year. In school we just had like grammar lessons, and we have been reading a lot of texts, so that's pretty much it. Basically have no vocabulary, I just understand it because the only thing we do is like translate texts. I'm gonna try to speak a bit in German. My German is definitely worse than my Spanish, but it's not awful. Like I understand a lot of German, but yeah. Ich spreche nicht Deutsch, weil ich habe Deutsch in Schule. I don't know what more to say, honestly. I didn't even think of anything to say. Ich habe eine Mutter und ich wohne mit meiner Mutter. Ich habe nicht einen Vater oder hermanos. I'm totally mixing it with Spanish. I don't know why. The languages are not even similar. But ich habe nicht einen Bruder oder Schwester. I have nothing to say. Just ignore my German. It's awful and I don't know what to talk about. So let's just move on. Then for Portuguese. So Portuguese, I didn't actually choose to learn that, and I didn't have it in school, but it's because I was in New York on like a language trip thing where there was a lot of Brazilians I got a lot of Brazilian friends. For 3 weeks, I was surrounded by Portuguese all the time, like literally all the time. And they learned me some words, and not only that, I noticed that I was able to read Portuguese. Like, I don't understand when they talk, but I'm able to read in Portuguese, which kind of mind blew me. I was kind of like, how? And I found out that's because written Portuguese is so similar to written Spanish. And I understand written Spanish very well, but I don't understand spoken Portuguese at all, because they have like the j sound, for example, and they pronounce things completely different to Spanish. But I can try to say some of the stuff I know in Portuguese, but I can't like talk in Portuguese because I don't know like how the language is built. Like, I can't say I'm doing this. I can only say like eu falo português. Where muitos brasileiros. You know what? I actually wrote like small text in Portuguese sometime. I think I'm gonna try to find that. Okay, I found the text that I wrote. So this is scripted. Warning, it's not my Portuguese level. It's like how... Okay, but... Eu falo português porque estive em uma viagem de 3 semanas a Nova York, onde fiz amizade com muitos brasileiros. Eu estava cercado por portugueses o tempo todo, e agora você provavelmente pensa, você não pode aprender uma língua em 3 semanas. Não, claro que não, mas claro, eu... I really don't know if I pronounced that right, but that was a text I wrote, and I understood most of it myself, so that's what I mean by I understand written Portuguese, and I wrote this in Portuguese myself, like with help from Google, with some words, maybe most of the words, maybe it was Google Translate, but that fact doesn't matter. So, for my goals for the next year, now I used way too long talking about what I achieved. I'm probably gonna cut most of it out, so it's probably like only 10 seconds. But now I'm gonna talk about my language goals for next year. First of all, in September, the chances of me going to a boarding school is pretty big. I know that on that boarding school I'm maybe going to, you can get Spanish and Mandarin. So my goals. First, about Spanish, my goal is to speak it fluently. Like, not totally fluently, but like fluently-ish. I know it's very ambitious, but I've been learning Spanish for like 2 years now, and I think that I can learn it. I can do it. And then I will take a whole notebook and make it into a Spanish journal, and then I will start journaling in Spanish, like maybe every day. Probably not every day, but sometimes just writing it, like what have I done today and what are my feelings. Then I want to read a whole book just in Spanish. Like, now I've been reading way too many short stories and that stuff, and I kind of want to try out reading a whole book and then like having my phone so I can go on Google Translate or Reverso and translate the words I don't know. But like, I think I'm able to do it now, read a book in Spanish, because both speaking Spanish and understanding Spanish is way harder than reading. Reading Spanish and reading in another language is always the easiest. So I feel like I'll be able to do it. Then for my German, I'm kind of forced to learn German. Like, I don't really have a choice because I have it in school, which is okay. I don't think I'm gonna learn a lot of German on my own, because I like learning languages I don't have opportunities to learn other places, like alone. Then I want to learn a bit more Arabic, just because I'm traveling to Egypt, and then I want to be able to like communicate a bit with people, because, you know, I do travel kinda a lot. I don't know, a lot. I do travel sometimes, but it's very often only to like Spain and the Netherlands, because I have family living there. So it's pretty much always the same places. Now that I'm going to Egypt and like to a country speaking another language than Spanish or Dutch or English, I'm going to a country speaking Arabic, then I should maybe learn some Arabic. One day I want to learn like fluent Arabic. Most languages I want to learn fluent one day, but I think to begin with, it's just because I'm gonna travel there, and then I'm gonna use it as an excuse to learn it. So it will be useful for me that way, because it will be a bit sad if I like, after I was there, started to learn Arabic. Then, you know, this was not something I achieved this year or last year. Actually, it was something I achieved in 2020 when I was 13 years old. I learned the Cyrillic alphabet. You know, the alphabet you use in Russian, Ukrainian, Macedonian, Bulgarian, and more languages as well, I'm pretty sure, because I think it's a very fascinating alphabet, and I've been able to read it and write it in like 2.5 years, but I want to improve it this time because it's a long time ago since I last time like practiced it. I just know it now. I don't know, I was very bored in quarantine, and then I was like, Cyrillic alphabet, why not? Then I'm gonna make a choice because there's a new language that I want to try. I know it's gonna be a language who will take a long time, but I feel like I want to learn languages from like different places on the earth. I am more a European languages kind of person, but I do want to learn like some Asian languages, maybe an African, and like, I don't know, just like different languages from around the world. And for that reason, I think I'm gonna have to make the choice between starting learning Mandarin Chinese or Korean. And I think I rule out Japanese because I don't really know why. I feel like my motivation to learn Korean or Mandarin is bigger. If I'll go to that boarding school next year, then I'll probably have Mandarin, so that would be a smart choice for that reason. So I think if I get in on that boarding school, I will maybe try out some Chinese, and if I don't get in, then I'll reconsider. But right now it's most likely that it's gonna be Chinese that I'll try out a bit, and if I don't really like it, then I can maybe switch to Korean, but I don't know. So those are like my language goals, like the ones I think I can achieve and I want to achieve. And then I of course have some maybes because there's so many languages I like, and sometimes it's hard for me to focus on just like a few languages or one language, because like there's so many languages, and randomly I wake up some days and I'm like, oh my god, now I want to learn Greek, and like that doesn't really make sense because it's like a one-day motivation. But maybe I'll get a new obsession. Like I remember last year I actually kind of had an obsession with Armenian. It was like very random. I didn't learn a lot. I learned a bit, but I had like half a year I had an obsession with Armenian. Maybe I'll find another language that I suddenly get a lot of motivation for a long time. But if not, then some maybes I have. Maybe I want to learn some more Dutch because I have been learning Dutch before. I haven't really done it this year, but like in 2020 and 2021, I did learn some Dutch. Also before that, because I have a Dutch cousin who lives in the Netherlands, and I've been listening a lot to Dutch. And then we also have Greek as a maybe. Greek, I just like Greek. And then I don't think I'm gonna learn any Portuguese because I'm afraid I'm gonna like mix it up if I learn Portuguese right now. But when my Spanish gets fluent one day, I'll probably start Portuguese because I actually wanna learn Portuguese more than I wanna learn French or Italian. I mean, I like French and Italian. I love Italian music. My favorite singer is also Italian. His name is Irama, and if you don't know him, which you probably don't do except if you're Italian, then go listen to him. It's too familiar to Spanish, and I want to focus on Spanish. Like it's my first priority this year, just as it was the last 2 years. But I want to keep my focus on it because that's the most important thing for me right now, is to become fluent in Spanish. So when they ask me like, how many languages do you speak? 3. That's like way more cool than speaking 2. And then for some languages I'm interested in, like some languages I just like plan on learning in the future, which are not goals for this year either. But that's like languages I've always kind of had something for. Like I've always kind of wanted to learn them. And it's languages I think I'm gonna learn one day, and languages I don't see many people learning, because it's like I'm a big Eurovision fan, and that's what has made me interested in a lot of languages. So there we have Albanian. Like I don't think I've ever seen anyone trying to learn Albanian, and I don't think it would be very easy to find resources to learn it, since there are a very small amount of people living in Albania, and I'm pretty sure you don't speak Albanian in other countries, maybe in Kosovo, but I'm pretty sure it's like less than a few million people talking Albanian in the world, so it's gonna be very hard to find resources, and it's a very hard language. I can see it's like, but I'm very interested in it. And then I love watching Festivali Genghis. I don't know, I really have no idea how to pronounce it. I never heard an Albanian say it, but it's like this national final, the song selection for Eurovision. So there's a lot of Albanian songs that I like, and then I like watching it, and then I just like, it's 3 days normally, and then I just like watch 3 shows in Albanian, and I'm like, I don't understand this, but I love it. So yeah. And then, as I mentioned before, like last year I had a phase where I was very obsessed with Armenian, and maybe that phase will come back. I don't know, but like I like Armenian. Their letters, they are very weird, like in a good way. So I feel like a lot of the letters look the same. So Armenian is also on there. Then there also is Georgian. Georgian, that's also because of Eurovision, as well as Albanian and Armenian. And then as the last language that I'm like very into, we have like Serbian/Croatian, because I know that Serbian and Croatian are very similar, also with Bosnian, but I'm not sure which to choose, like Serbian or Croatian. I do want to live in one of the countries for some months or something like that one day, and then what language I will learn is probably just like gonna depend on where I want to live. Like if I find a nice city in any of the countries. So they're very much a slash, because I don't feel like I want to learn 2 that similar languages. That's it for this video. I hope you liked it, or I hope that I liked it, because I'll get surprised if this video gets views from other people than myself. But I'll see you again, I guess. Like, don't be sure, but yeah, bye.